AI brings agility and flexibility to the DC. Well, joining us today to speak about that, Mike Larsson, Executive Vice President for the Americas region at Dematic. Mike, good to see you, welcome.
Thank you very much, Russell. Nice to be here.
Mike, let's just talk about what's going on in the distribution center with artificial intelligence. How do you see it transforming that entity? What do you say?
It's a great question, Russell. Thank you for bringing it up. And I think what we need to think about is the change that the distribution center goes through today. We deal with a lot of uncertainty in the industry, from supply chain uncertainty, change of customer behavior. So the distribution operator needs to understand, how can I deal with this uncertainty in a good way? One way that AI can help us with, for example, is simulation. How do I simulate different types of outcomes so that I better prepare myself to operate the DC the way it needs to be operated to deal with those challenges?
Mm-hmm. It's clear that, of course, some of the uncertainty that you're talking about has been brought on by the pandemic. If that could be done away with, that would help things somewhat. But even once we get past that, there's still always uncertainty in the distribution center, is there not?
That's true. And if you use the pandemic as an example, we have a current growth of 26% of e-commerce year over year, even bumped further up by the COVID itself. So if you think about that and what customers do, so in the past, there was kind of an understanding that they're going to do store replenishment, for example, with a certain part of my DC, and some certain part is going to go to fulfill orders from customers, individual consumers. But in the current environment, e-commerce is growing, so now from a day-to-day operations of the DC, we actually don't know how many SKUs are going to go to individual consumers and how many is going to go to store replen. So dealing with this uncertainty, even outside the fact that we have supply chain challenges, is a continuous challenge for our customers, and that's where AI can help.
Let me ask you a question. Once we get past the pandemic, do you see the volume of orders that we're seeing because of the pandemic diminishing? Do you see that reducing? Are we ever going to go back to pre-pandemic numbers, or will it just continue a linear growth?
If we look at the market today, we don't see that there is a tailing off of the growth, and the reason I'm saying that, if you go back pre-pandemic, people were very comfortable ordering furniture and t-shirts online, traditional e-commerce, but spurred by the COVID, we now start ordering groceries and food and beverage online as well, which means that there's additional growth added to the e-commerce online, which poses additional challenges for our customers, but also continued growth of the market.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. One of the things that we want to do in the DC, or throughout the supply chain for that matter, but in the distribution center, we want to optimize things. We want to improve things there. We want to take the data that is available, the wealth of data that is available, to optimize operations in the distribution center. Well, I guess the question to you is, how can artificial intelligence, how can machine learning help us utilize that data to optimize our operations? What do you say?
So I think there's two pieces to the operation of the DC. You have the automation itself, which we can increase quality, we can introduce AI to increase throughput. Then we have the operations of the DC, which is what I spoke to earlier, dealing with the challenges of our customers to deal with the uncertainty in the market. So those two pieces, I think AI can, by continuous to learn and take the uncertainty out over time, that's going to help us be more efficient from inbound to outbound.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, one of the things we've been talking about, of course, is fulfillment and distribution, that, filling orders, that sort of thing. But let's talk about predictive maintenance. Let's talk about those kind of operations that go on solely within the distribution center itself. Does AI play a machine learning, do they play a positive role in helping with those aspects?
It does, and I think what we need to think about is, in order for us to fulfill as quickly as we need to fulfill orders, today 80% of consumers wants to have the order fulfilled the same day or the day after.
Yes, they do.
Which means that the efficiency of the operation has to be tighter and tighter. So we don't have time for systems standing still, automation standing still. Preventive maintenance give us the opportunity to deal with things outside the operational times, so we can deal it on a maintenance break. And if you have AI, now we can look at the equipment and see where are the things that doesn't really work for us, where do we see the issues with the equipment itself. And now we can start thinking about, okay, so maybe by learning that, we can target our preventive maintenance in a better way than we do today.
Mm-hmm. Final question to you, Mike. How is Dematic helping its clients deal with some of the uncertainty that we've just outlined for the last several minutes here? What's it doing?
So I think a few things. So we have been around for quite a while. We just have our 200-year anniversary 2 years ago. So we have, of course, amassed a great deal of domain competence in the industry, and we're a wide supplier across all verticals. But I think that the change is now, with all the things we talked about today, you can talk about software, for example. Software is going to play a much more important role in making sure our DCs are operating better. So if you look at that and say, hey, I'm going to use software to become more efficient inside the four walls, but also think about outside the four walls. Having a control tower, making sure that we can connect distribution centers and also look at the overall distribution chain to take a bigger perspective on how do we make this more efficient for our customers. And I think that's the way we're on.
Well, that is a hopeful and satisfying picture that you've just drawn there for clients relying on Dematic. You know, thank you very much for finding the time here at this conference to sit down and speak with us about that.
Thank you, Russell.
Well, that's Mike Larsson, Dematic, speaking with us today about the agility, the flexibility that artificial intelligence is going to bring to your distribution center. Thanks for watching.